why you play worse when you're tilted. I'm gonna talk about why you play better when you're tilted. And then also, like for some people, they actually play better when they're tilted. It's kind of weird, but there's actually mental reasons for that. And I'll also talk about how you can actually use tilt, even if it makes you play worse or if it makes you play better, to improve faster. Like how you can use tilt to benefit yourself. So basically, when I've seen it in the comments of that video I made about people playing better when they're tilted, and the idea behind that is that you got your emotional level. As your emotions rise, right? As your emotions rise, and they go up and up, like your skill goes up with it. Like your level of skill goes up with your emotions. So like if you had skill here and emotions here, if you have no emotions, then you're not gonna have any skill, right? And then if you start getting emotions, that's your skills are also going to increase too. Like when you're emotionally charged, you're going to start playing better because you're more focused. And then once you pass a certain threshold, then your skill actually drops off as you get more and more tilted, whatever, yada yada yada. So there's actually a certain threshold that you don't want to pass when it comes to emotions. It'll actually affect your gameplay. And this can be confidence, this could be tilt, can be anger, fear, all the above. Any emotion that's too strong is going to pass this certain threshold and it shuts down your cognitive ability. Like you can't access your thinking because this is just a human thing. If you get too angry, you lose your ability to think properly. And the same thing goes with confidence. It's called winner's tilt. If you get too confident, you actually lose your ability to think as well too. So you have to control the top end of your emotion. That's what the last video was about, is why you play worse when you're tilted, right? But then people are talking about why they play better when they're tilted. And my theory behind that is that they just end up playing without emotion, and so their level of skill isn't improving. Like you need a certain amount of emotion while you're playing to play good. They talk about that in the book too, The Mental Game of Poker, that if you have the opposite problem of tilting and where you're too numb, like you want before the game, you want to hype yourself up, you want to trying to stimulate that emotion before you get in the game, and that helps with your concentration, helps with your focus because you have an emotional charge behind your game. And so these people, when they play, they feel like they play better when they're tilted, is because when they're out tilted, there's no emotion at all. There's no hype, there's no confidence maybe. And then they need that tilt to spark the emotion, which improves their skill. So if you have this problem of where you can only play good when you're tilted, it's probably because you're not having enough emotion when you start playing, and you have to wait to get tilted to get that emotion rising. So just get that emotion, get that emotion rising before you get tilted, and you won't have to tilt to play good. So if you rely on tilt to, spark your emotions to play good before the game, sit in silence and just like spark up some confidence, just breathe deeply and just get excited to play. You can use excitement as an emotion to spark up your skill. You can use nerves. Like nerves is a great motion to spark up your skill. Nervousness, anxiety, any type of fear, any of that stuff. You can spark that up before you play so you don't have to get tilted in order to play good and access your high level of skill. Because a certain amount of emotions is good, too much is bad, and too little is bad. So you want to be in the sweet zone. It's like a balance. So if you're in the bad zone where you don't have any emotion, spark it up before you play so you don't have to rely on tilting to get that emotion out. And if you have the problem of getting too tilted where you end up playing bad, then you have to learn how to control that, which I can talk about later. But this is why I want to talk about why people play better when they're tilted, and then why this can actually benefit you, why tilt in general can benefit you. So this has nothing to do with skill and emotions. So that's why people play better when they're tilted. And I'm going to talk about for anyone, if you play better, play worse, whatever, how you can actually use tilt to improve. You have your A game, B game, C game. And like I said, when you're tilted, you're full on tilt, you lose your ability to think properly. You lose your cognitive functioning because your emotions are too high. So with that in mind, that's why you play really bad when you're tilted, right? You lose your ability to think. And when you lose your ability to think, then all you have left when you're playing is stuff that you don't have to think about. All the stuff you have down to a subconscious level that you have ingrained really well. And that might be the stairs, smoke on mirage, and your aim. That could be someone's, their whole subconscious bag. But what you can do is when you're tilted, you can watch your games back of you being tilted and seeing what you stopped doing, right? When you're on your A game, you have a lot of things that you're probably doing that you don't do when you're tilted. That's because you have the ability to think. And if you have the ability to think, you have the ability to use things that you're in the process of learning, right? If you're already tilted and you lose your ability to think, then you can't access the things that you're in the process of ingraining and learning. They go away because you can't think. So all you have left is what you have ingrained down. So if you watch your games back of when you're tilted, look at what you're doing. And if let's say you never missed jungle smoke, even on a game that you're tilted, like you're still hitting your jungle smoke, then that tells you you don't need to practice that jungle smoke anymore. Because if you have it down when you're tilted, that means you'll always have it down. So you can stop practicing that. And let's say, you're on Mirage, you're watching that game back, and you realize that you don't smoke CT on an execute. Now that tells you don't have the CT smoke down to a subconscious level. So basically, watching your games back when you're tilted shows you what you need to work on still, stuff that goes away from your game, and stuff that and then also what you don't need to work on anymore, stuff that is showing in the game. So you have something that you're doing in game while you're tilted, you're doing it just fine. Let's say your aim. If you aim really good when you're tilted, you probably don't need to focus on your aim as much, right? Because you have it down to a subconscious level. If your aim goes away when you're tilted, then you probably need to work on your aim even more. If your smokes, you have your smokes down while you're tilted, then you don't need to practice your smokes anymore, because that means you already have them down to subconscious level. And if you do lose your smokes when you're tilted, then it means you probably do need to practice your smokes because you don't have it down to that subconscious level yet. So this is how you can use tilt to actually see what you need to work on and see what you don't need to spend as much time on anymore.